Welcome to a brand new episode of Exposed. I'm one of your hosts, Jessica Deer.
And I'm Dahajay.
We have an interesting show for you this month. First up, Dahajay interviewed this month's youth role model. She's a young woman who enjoys traveling abroad for volunteer work.
So with that, let's take a look at her new adventure. If you may remember, Callie Montour was our January's youth role model. And we have Callie, and we're gonna ask her a few questions about her trip to Africa. Okay, so welcome to the show, Callie. And tell us a little bit about your experience in Africa. What was it like there compared to here?
It was very different. More towards the airport, it was more like a city, but once we went further deep into the village where we worked, it was very different. There was no street lights. We saw a lot of people walk around without shoes, and everything was really laid back. And what surprised me about where I was in KwaZulu-Natal. I guess about 2/3 of the population is black and 1/3 is Afrikaans. I guess they're originally Dutch. So to me, it was a surprise to see people with blonde hair and blue eyes walking around, and I don't know, it was interesting to see the culture mix.
So you volunteered for 3 different projects. Can you tell me a little bit more about each individual project and what were your roles?
The first project was construction, and we were building a house and a bathroom for a man who was disabled. He was only born with 1 leg, and he was living in a very poor community, so we were building him a new house. He was originally living in an old hut that was falling apart. So our job was to knock down the hut, break the old foundation with a sledgehammer, and dig ditches for the foundation. I spent most of my time in a ditch. We had to dig a ditch about 8 feet for the septic tank, and there was only about 3 or 4 of us digging, so that was pretty rough. We also dug a trench. We had to mix our own cement. That was a lot of labor. For education, in the mornings we worked at a daycare, and that was a lot of babies. The first daycare was kids who are about 7 years and younger, and then another daycare was just babies. So that was pretty fun. The afternoons we had to work in a high school, and that was kind of scary because you don't know what to expect in a high school in Africa. So we worked there. I taught grade 5 and grade 7, mostly teaching them English and oftentimes keeping them entertained because their schools, they don't have enough teachers, or sometimes the teachers don't show up. So, they're happy to have new people in their class. And the last one was conservation. So we were brought over to an animal sanctuary place, and our job was basically to clean up the cages. The first one was wild cats, so we had to trim trees, get rid of the bushes with the thorns, fix their pond, get the leaves out. And then the second one was the alligator place. So we had to cut down trees and rake lots of leaves. And while the alligators and the cats were still in the cages, mind you, one of the jobs I had to do was I had to get a net, and I had to clear out all the stuff out of the pond while the alligators were right in there.
Oh gosh.
So I was just looking at on TV on Animal Planet where they just jump out of the water. I was waiting for that.
It seems like you were busy all the time. So what did you do in your free time?
They took us on a lot of safaris. We went through different places. Some places had mostly herbivores, other places had predators. One day they took us to a witch doctor. Over there it's called Isangoma. So you get to ask her 5 questions and she tells you your future, and that was pretty fun.
Really?
Yeah, we got to see them dance. They took us on nature walks. It was mostly revolved around nature and animals. Other than that, there's one day where they brought us to a beach, so that was nice.
So what are some of the different types of animals you've seen over there?
Well, I already mentioned alligators, crocodiles, serval cats, caracals. Then I guess your usual African animals, we saw rhinos, hippos, zebras, giraffes, that kind of stuff. I wasn't fortunate enough to see elephants and lions and hyenas, but I heard other people who went on the other safaris did, so it was pretty fun.
So what were some of the challenges you faced on this trip?
We faced a lot of different challenges. For one, our lunches weren't really that great during the program. Our breakfasts and dinners were really healthy, but for lunch we were fed on site, so they would just bring a cooler and it would basically be hamburger buns with mayonnaise and a few flakes of lettuce. And when you're doing really hard work, especially conservation was physical too, a lot of people were getting overworked or we were starving after work. So that was a bit of a challenge, and just working in that kind of environment too. I remember the second day when I was digging the ditch, you know, it takes a lot of muscle to, like, you know, throw dirt way over your head when you're in a deep hole. So I was digging and I was working so hard, I started getting dizzy and exhausted, and when I went to shovel down, I accidentally shoveled my own toe.
Ow.
Yeah, so some people injured themselves just from being tired, and I don't know, I guess the work is really hard, but you know, when you come home, you just feel great, and we fell asleep at 8 p.m. every night.
I can imagine doing all that work. I seen on your Facebook that you had a basket full of toys. How did the kids react?
They really liked it. When we showed up at the daycare, the kids, they didn't really have any toys. All their toys were broken, so we showed up there and I had lacrosse sticks, hockey sticks, frisbees, jump rope, and the kids, they didn't know how to play with a lot of these things. They never had a frisbee, so we were trying to teach them, and you know, sometimes they don't want to play with the toys the way they're supposed to. Like one boy, he had a frisbee and it had a holographic sticker on it, and he just kept like shining the thing all over the place, you know, the glare that pops up. But he was having fun, so we let him, and they really liked the lacrosse sticks. I was afraid it would be too hard for them to learn, but they loved it. There was 2 boys that were just glued to it the whole time.
So overall, what do you think you got from this experience?
I guess it's just a lot of knowledge about other parts in the world, like understanding issues that other countries face. Even if you hear about issues in the newspaper, you don't really understand it from the other people's point of view. Like say they talk about HIV a lot in Africa, and you know, we think, oh well, it can be easily fixed, we can just do this and this. But then once you're there, you realize, you know, you can't. You know, and part of the reason of helping people is you have to understand how their lifestyle is, what issues they face. It's completely not the same here. And I think that's really important too. It also opens your eyes up to your own culture and to other places in the world, because in some ways we're really different and in some ways we're really the same. Like one thing that shocked me was in the marketplace, a lot of the stuff they sold was stuff you can find at the powwow. I saw corn husk dolls, I saw soapstone sculptures, and lots of beadwork. And you know, over there, their money's so low, they're selling all these fancy, intricate beadwork for $2, and I'm thinking, oh, this would be $180 at the powwow. So it was kind of cool to see that connection.
And I remember this isn't the first time you did some volunteer work. I remember back in 2010 you did some volunteer work in Ecuador. And is volunteer work a thing that you want to keep doing in the future? Yeah, for sure. In fact, I was thinking of doing it twice this year, but it's kind of a thing that's very pricey. I mean, volunteer, you're giving a lot of your time, but you have to pay the programs who give you your food and your hostels and where you stay. So I would like to try and do it every year, every other year. And next time I'm going to try and find a different program, because I want one that's more serious and with more serious volunteers. Like maybe this one's more of an introduction to volunteer, but I've been thinking of going in Nicaragua and possibly some other places, but I'll find out next year, I guess. Okay, well, thank you for coming and answering our questions.
Well, that was really interesting. Callie seemed like she had a good time, and some of those pictures too were really cool.
Yeah, I can't wait to volunteer with her. So with that, we're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back.